Hello everyone. As we see a plane flying overhead, we know we are on the Salem, South Dakota map created by Federal for Farming Simulator 11. And we kind of started in the previous episode to visit about how to fix this pesky windrow of spring wheat so that we can harvest it with a pickup header with the combine. And you may recall we were experiencing errors as we tried to do it in the past. So I the episode just prior to this one started talking through some of the changes that we made. First I had to create some new assets for the map. And then I had to open the map i3D file and add those assets in, create a new material for spring wheat for the windrow that we hope to use. I added a multi-layer for the windrow, and I was just getting to the map scripting, and we're going to need some mod changes too. So I had to kind of close the previous episode at the half hour I tried to keep them at, and hopped in here briefly and said I would continue at another episode. So let's exit the game real quick, and we will continue where we were. So we last were in here with the sample mod map Lua file, which is in most maps in the root directory of the map itself near the mod description, although it wouldn't have to be here. That's typically where a lot of them were in this era. So we just cranked it open, and last time I explained a fix for adding the fruit. It's one thing to build it into the map, to create the assets, but it isn't going to do anything until we have a little Lua code to tell the game that it exists. So that's kind of what we did here. The fruit util register fruit type spring wheat, set it up so we would have a windrow that we could use. And then I was talking through wanting to have the ability to destroy the windrow. In most cases, when we destroy the windrow, it's going to be through harvest, right? We'll be combining the windrow, so it's going to pick it up, it's going to make the windrow disappear, and it's going to convert it into grain. But the problem is that if we ever don't harvest some of it, or some of it's laying about, we don't get to, whatever it is, we need to have the ability to make it go away. And for regular crops, there is a means and a mechanism of doing that. But whenever we have a different type of multi-layer, a regular crop meaning anything that appears in here. If you drag a plow or windrow over these in here, you should be able to destroy them kind of in the map, or reduce them to dirt. But we've all noticed, bushes and normal grass and some of these other things, trees, we can't take them out with a plow. It'll show dirt under it, but it's going to leave because it's its own multi-layer, and it hasn't been defined to tell the game that we have the ability to do that with a cultivator or plow, and it's just going to leave it there. So we need to do that because we're kind of using these additional multi-layers down here in order to get a special windrow. And you may recall we don't want to use the regular wheat windrow because this is windrow output from the back of the combine. We don't want it to also be input. So we're creating an input windrow, and we're kind of using this down here as a placeholder. It's all I could think of in terms of a clean way to actually get this done. So here's where it is. So we come back here to the Lua file for the sample mod map. We've added the fruit. Now give us a means to destroy it. So first, I defined a local variable to be equal to the existing function for update destroy common area. This is a Lua function that is defined already in the game by the Giants. They created it, and it's in utils, which typically means more than one other area in all the vast Lua code that makes a game work uses this somewhere, so they just put it in one place. So I'm saying, hey, let's use the existing code, and then I'm overwriting it down here with something new, but I'm using the original. That's kind of why I have it down here. So I say, let's make a new one first, do everything that the old one did. That's kind of what this line is. So it's just kind of a little, there'd be another way to do it. I mean, you could do utils overridden function. That'd probably be a better way to do it. This is kind of a quick and dirty way to do it. It works, so that's kind of what I'm choosing to do here. And then after you do everything that's in there, here's the one extra step that I wanted it to do. While you're destroying the common area and doing all this, by the way, take a look and see if there's any spring wheat windrow, or any time you see this crop, and destroy that too, specifically the update windrow area. And kind of this is also a utils function, so it's looking for that, and it looking for this within the parameters. This is defining the parallelogram. If you find it, give it a value of 0. Knock it out. And I think this is force, which is true, so we definitely wanted to do, I don't remember some of what these were here. But that's kind of what's going on. If it finds a windrow, you could put other things in here too. If you wanted, you could figure out a way to put some of these other multi-layers down there if you wished. So you probably even could put a underscore. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to get into all that. Suffice it to say, we've adjusted the utils function to destroy it. Now, why am I picking this particular function? Well, deep in the Lua files, and you got to be half crazy to read all this stuff. I talked about the plows and cultivators. So there is a util that works specifically for the cultivators, utils update cultivator area. Here's where, the code for the cultivator is going to plug in the parallelogram. This is the work area, and it's going to run through a routine of how it's supposed to behave. Well, one of the things that it's going to do is it hits update destroy common area. Well, and so does the plow. It also hits update destroy common area. So rather than adjust both cultivator and plow area, since they both call the same destroy function, I opted just to do it once, and so I grabbed this function here to make my modification. And so here you kind of see the code, that what it's doing in here. It's doing a bunch of stuff that I can't even hardly describe to you because I don't fully understand it myself. Suffice it to say, it's helping get rid of stuff, and it's doing things to help us see visually what we see in the game. If we cultivate something, we expect to see dirt. Well, then it's going to help us see dirt, both this function and the ones up above here. So that's kind of why I picked it here. Update, destroy, common area. If we go back over here, update, destroy, common area, it's the same function. I'm running it as is, and I'm adding this teeny tiny extra little function here. Oh yeah, this is another one here. Update, fruit, windrow area. Well, that one is also in here somewhere. Update fruit windrow area. It's actually fairly lengthy. It's all of this code here. So here it needs a fruit ID. It's the same parallelogram value. If you put a number there, it's going to drop a windrow of some amount. If you put a value of 0, it's going to take away whatever is there, make it go a force and delete fruit. Oh, that probably deletes it on the underlying fruit. So we didn't want to do that. So anyway, I'm calling this one here. I'm plugging in our spring wheat, giving it the parallelogram over here that we have. And I know I've mentioned parallelograms a number of times. Parallelogram is the work area of a cultivator, a plow, a header that's picking something up. All of those areas are defined by a parallelogram. It's all math in game that's picking all this up. So this particular parallelogram is the work area in the cultivator or plow that shows the area that this is to be destroyed. So we defined it to the map, we figured out a way to destroy it, so now it's going to show up properly in game. It really doesn't take that much to register a new fruit or put it in there. More of the work, was creating the asset and getting it all. It's a bunch of tedium, really, to put it into the map's i3D file. Well, so we had the next changes that need to be made is like to the cutter. The cutter, and you got to unzip all these files to do what we're doing to them. Like if I back out here, and this is a real cryptic name, I have no idea what this is, but this is here's the windrow that we have. You've seen it in game. That's just the store picture. So we need to give it a little bit more instruction so that it knows what to do now when it cuts wheat. We don't want it to put down a regular wheat windrow. We wanted to put down our spring wheat windrow. And so there's a script, of course, that tells this thing how to cut. And so we need to make sure the script is going to do what we want it to do. So, of course, it had a script in here, this Lua file, QGMD4010 Lua. I have no idea why it's named this way. Anyway, we popped it open. Oh, wait a minute. That's back over here. I should have put that in no order here. So I've kind of collapsed everything in here that isn't relevant. There's a section here that someone added to this. Most of the coding here is telling this particular windrow what to do. It's got this header, it's got a reel, it's supposed to turn when it's on, turns very fast, I might add. So a lot of the coding in here is defining and describing and telling the reel how to turn and what to do. But then someone added a section here that said, well, we better tell it what to do when it cuts things. So I don't know who added this for the map author, but they put it in here. I made just one teeny tiny update. You come down here, it's looking at its cutting areas. This is the working area of the cutter. Getting the position of it, the start width, height to define the parallelograms. And then it's looking at it and saying, okay, now what do we do with it? It's looking for particular things. Does it see wheat? So here it's kind of using a util function to see if it detects wheat. Does it see barley? If it sees barley, it's going to do this. And if it sees anything else, probably in the area, it's going to assume it's grass. And so that's kind of what you see up here. If you're moving and it says, cut it as grass here. Otherwise, if so it's going to cut it. That's basically what's going on here. It's going to cut it. And then if it detects wheat, well, then it's going to do this. So it says, get the windrow fruit area for wheat. And then after you get the values of what you're grabbing, it says now update the area by putting down a windrow. And here is the one teeny tiny change we made. Previously, this didn't have the spring in here, it just had wheat. So yeah, it detects wheat and it puts down the regular wheat windrow, which, as we've talked before, it's the windrow that comes out the back of the combine. That isn't what we want to see. We want to see our new windrow, the spring wheat. And so even making a change here, this isn't the best modding. This is something specific for the map, for the Salem, South Dakota map. This won't just work on another map because it's going to look at this and say, well, where is the fruit type spring wheat, if it hasn't been defined. And so probably will pop an error in the log. But it will work here. So if it detects wheat, it's going to drop a spring wheat windrow. So we're kind of doing a swapperoo with the crop here. We're kind of tricking the game to move from regular wheat to spring wheat in terms of the windrow that it puts down. And then, of course, this other stuff, as we've already seen in game, if it detects barley, it's going to put down the barley windrow. But really, this is the only change I had to make to the script in here, so it was really pain-free in terms of telling the cutter to do what we want to do. So now, after the cutter drops the windrow that we want, which is spring wheat, we need to make sure that the pickup header of the combine is able to pick it up. So remember, it's kind of a Kloss. Let me see. Let me go to the mod itself. I also have it unzipped. Oh yeah, Kloss Lexion, however you say that. Swath Master. So we come in here, Grass Schwad. This tells, again, that special coding had to be done because the game really doesn't know what to do with a pickup header for the combine. The regular grain combine. So this is some extra coding that was done. This here's the regular XML file, and as probably all of us know, that in that file you define the particulars of what the header is able to pick up. So let's go to that first. And again, I guess I didn't need to do it. I can try to hide some of the area things in here that are extraneous. In here for this particular header, we can define what kind of fruits are going to be picked up by this header. And you'll see I put spring wheat. I didn't have to say windrow. All I need, the game will do the add. It'll add the windrow to it. I just put spring wheat so that it knows to detect it on the ground. Now, previously, it had barley in here, it had wheat in here, and I think it even had grass. It should have never had grass. I don't think that should have been in here. That's probably part of what was screwing up our combine. We did it a couple of episodes ago, and it was popping errors. So this is really all I had to do in the XML file for the pickup header. And then let's go back up here to the Lua file. And again, this was pretty simple. There's really not much going on in here. It's a simple file. The main purpose of which, is to tell it how to recognize the fruit and what to do with it as it picks it up, because the regular combine header doesn't deal with it in this fashion. So let me see if I can parse through this. Has ground contact. That means the header is on the ground picking it up. These are the cutting areas. It's looking through the fruit types that are within the header. Now, we already defined the fruit type that's in here. The only thing it's going to be allowed to pick up is spring wheat. So really, this loop that it's doing here is a loop of one. There's only one fruit in there, and it is spring wheat. So it's getting, again, the parallelogram of the header area, and then it's looking to see what is there, for the fruit type. And the fruit type, of course, is going to be spring wheat. So it's looking at the windrow area to see if any is there, and cut long area. So of course it's going to see that it's there through this, and so that means the area is going to be greater than 0 because it's going to detect the presence of the texture that the windrow texture that the cutter put down there, or the swather put down. So area is going to be greater than 0, and when it does, here's where we're tricking the game again. Previously, what the mod author put in here was grass, and I'm not sure why. This is what confused our combine, and maybe that's why the combine, had to be able to take in grass. It detected wheat, and then this immediately converted it to grass. And from then on, the combine didn't know what to do with it. It spit it out the back as a grass windrow. Because grass has a windrow, but grass has no seeds. Well, it does in real life, but in game, it wasn't able to see the seeds to put them in the combine. So that's kind of what they had. We had to get rid of that. I commented it out, and I just called it wheat. It's going to look for spring wheat, and it finds it, and I said here, let's convert it to regular wheat. So the combine, which is attached to all of this, and is part of the same object, is going to see the current fruit type is now wheat, and it's going to know what to do with wheat because the game has already defined it. So I know I've expended a lot of words trying to describe this, probably failing miserably. The whole premise here is I created a windrow and basically a new crop. And the only thing I created for that new crop was the windrow. We are temporarily using the windrow, cutting it, putting it down, and then we are converting it or trading it, swapping it with something else through the code here. Now, maybe you got a way better way to do this than the means I came up with, but here's kind of where it finally lands on wheat. It's going to go into the combine. I don't need to do anything to the combine, but because it should know what to do, with the wheat and give us the wheat grain. Okay, so all of that, let me close. I think I've already shown here in the editor that you can put that in there. This is kind of the main farm. Let's go to the game again. I'll load that up and give me just a moment here. I'll be right back. All right, here we are in game. And we'll first go out to our tractor. We are gonna go cut some more windrow. Make sure I don't hit the fence. And we're gonna see if this works. I already had some cut in here, I know in the previous episode, so you could see a little bit different in texture for the windrow. It's kind of cool that it puts it in there for us, which is very helpful. So let me get this here. I'm going to get that swung over. See, when you look at this model, look at that. Yeah, that's a land. Yeah, there's some other things that need to be fixed. There's hydraulics or some kind of a cylinder here. Okay, oh my goodness, there's so many things to fix, but we won't look at that at the moment. We'll just try to see if we can cut ourselves a new windrow in here. There we go. Oh, this is interesting. It's not wanting to drop it. Now that is interesting. When I was headed the other way, I thought it was leaving more of a windrow. There we go. It leaves one kind of headed this way. Interesting. So apparently headed... Huh. Well, I maybe found another problem. I'm kind of just messing around here. It's interesting. They're nice big windrows here, but when you're headed the other way, it's kind of a little skimping. Oh, interesting. And when I head this direction, it's a big fluffy one. So it's only when I'm headed the other way. Okay, this is fascinating. All right, so we're going to get over here and we're going to drop this. We at least know it's dropping a windrow. So let me get that folded back up. Oh, come on. There we go. Am I popping any errors? Nope, I'm not. So let me get that out of the way. We're going to go over to our combine. And first off, I'm going to just take the header over there. I want to show you that this header, well, this is where when the map author, some of the choices that he's made, see, this is really in this medium between the fields. It looks like grass. I think that's kind of what the map author intended it to be, but it's actually barley. So you'll notice, we could, if we wanted, combine it, and look at that. It's giving us barley, putting out a barley windrow. All right, so let's creep over here into the wheat, and you'll notice it is harvesting wheat just fine. So maybe the best thing to do, really, at the end of the day, if you don't want to fuss with it, is just harvest it the normal, conventional way. But nope, we got to make it hard on ourselves, so we're going to do it this way. So let me take this over here, and we're going to go find our driving over the crop. Yeah, the texture's kind of flickering a little bit, probably because it's interfering with... You know why it's flickering? Because it's occupying the same space as the grass windrow. Now you may say, well, duh, it's obviously they're in the same place. But you'll notice over here, these textures aren't flickering, and I think it's because they do not occupy the same place. It is either wheat windrow or it's barley windrow. Here, you got grass under here, and you have the spring wheat windrow here on top. Both. And when we combine it, you'll know, yeah, you can kind of see the one underneath there. So it means that there's going to be a little bit of flickering, but big deal. All right, let's pick up our header. Oh, shoot, sorry. I didn't quite pick that up. Did I? Maybe I wasn't close enough. There we go. All right, so let me just prove it here. And it only picks up the spring wheat windrow, so let me crank this up. I'll get it down. You'll notice it's picking it up. You'll see grain coming into the tank, and it's going to leave, well, we left some barley or wheat straw behind. Let me just plunk that out right here, right by the grass. And so you'll see now it is, and we can't pick up the straw. You know, we're only picking up the spring wheat straw. If we come to this windrow over here, you'll notice no new grain is coming into the tank. So that's good. So let me back up to here. So we kind of fixed it. It doesn't pick up anything but what we wanted to pick up. So here it's going to grab it, and it picks it up and leaves the crop windrow, or puts it down kind of as we would expect it, or as the game defines it. So let me pause there. You know, the other thing that would need to be adjusted here is, I don't know, there's always a difference when you harvest or drop a windrow and how many liters that is versus harvested as grain. You know, so notice we have 2,100 liters. I don't know if we've picked up more with the little header here versus using the standard wheat header that's sitting over here. That's something we need to figure out. But anyway, be that as it may, the one other thing I wanted to show was to take the tractor here. Oh, I kind of got to run back to the farmyard. We'll go get our cultivator, and I'll just show that it's able to destroy it. Maybe should have showed this before. Oh, can't hardly see in here. Those fence posts are so dark. This is so narrow. Anyway, I picked up a cultivator over here. We call it to the field, and we'll watch it do its magic. So I'll have to fold it to get it through here. You know, I think the scale for these buildings must be off just a little bit. They seem small. Or is it just me? Maybe not. It just seems like that barn would be quite a bit bigger in real life, or the tractor a little bit smaller, but maybe not. Alright, through the fence, back to the field. Of course, we know we could cultivate all this out. I want to see if we can get this out. So I'll just come over here where we kind of peel the cookie in the field, and we're going to take care of business. And there we go. And I think so far we are error-free. So that's good to have. So if for any reason we weren't able to combine it, didn't want to, whatever, we are able to cultivate it out, which we're seeing right here. Now, maybe one other thing or possibility we could do. Oh, I wonder why I didn't take that up. One other thing we could do is perhaps, hey now, I gotta go a certain direction to get rid of it. Well, now this is interesting. How is turn on? Oh dear, it didn't have field detection on. I wonder if I need to go a certain direction in order to take this out. Yeah, so even the things I'm describing here aren't perfect. That takes it out. Let me see if it takes it out going this way. No, it still doesn't. Well, you see the problem here then as to why we needed the update destroy common area. There must be some bit somewhere, some pixel, that we need to go over in order to take it out. Yeah, that's really curious there why it isn't taking it out that particular bit. But in most cases, like I said, it shouldn't even be an issue because, matter of fact, let me bring the combine over. We'll see if we can harvest it. It shouldn't even be an issue because most of the time we'll be trying to, or we'll pick it up with the combine. So, let me bring this down here, do it in CAD. See, we'll pick it up. It didn't even see it. Yeah, so I'm a little puzzled on this as to why it isn't removing it. Maybe it has something to do. Maybe what I need to adjust is my weighting file. Maybe make it a little bit smaller to match kind of some of the other files in the game. Yeah, there's maybe some things that could be experimented with. So if I sit to say, I think we basically have it working, and it is without, with the exception of what we just saw over there, it's without error. So, yeah. The only error, of course, remaining might be how it's described in here in terms of being just regular wheat. You see here versus spring wheat. But definitely clever of how the map author chose to set things up. So, I wasn't intending to make yet another episode to describe all this, but some of this information, is I wish I would have had it years ago, so I could have fixed this kind of thing then, and I didn't know enough then, and hopefully this is helpful to anyone still playing on some of these older versions. Hey, if you download this map and you want to fix some things in it, hopefully I've shown you enough, that you can figure out how to do it on your end and learn a little bit of modding. Yeah, really wish I would have had that knowledge back when I actually spent substantive time on this particular map. And I'm seeing again one of the things that I didn't really like that also needs fixing. You look at this way over here, see this green? This is a distance texture right behind the combine, and I'm wondering, why is it green? Once this whole field is combined, we're going to see a whole bunch of green, and it should look like stubble. What you see down here, actually, you know what? Yeah, they didn't have the planted texture. That's probably what's doing it. The planted texture isn't down. Anyway, I've jawboned enough. Thank you for coming along on yet another episode in here for Salem, South Dakota. I will see you maybe on the next one if one of them comes, or in another video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.